Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
So in overtime, the Bills have the lead, 34-31. So the Eagles have to answer here. 1st and 10 at the Buffalo 12. Hurst takes a quarterback keeper to the 5 and into the end zone for the ball game.
Obviously, hard-fought game. I thought our guys played hard. Had some opportunities to win it, and at the end of the day, they made more plays than we did.
Mike Danger.
He needs to go. It's done. He needs to go. This is it. It's over. We don't need to lose the games the way they're losing these games. It's almost always on the head coach. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out on McDermott.
Gene Battaglia.
So the Buffalo Bills at some point are going to have to figure this out, or ultimately, and they're going to be doomed.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us here. 95.7 FM and AM 950. A little different today, as it's Throwback Monday here. And I'm not talking about the Buffalo Bills and this feeling like the drought era. Throwback to, we're kind of separated today. Do we have Mike Danger, Bo?
Yes.
We do.
Yeah, can you hear me, gentlemen?
Wow, very faintly, Mike. How are you doing? How are you holding up, bud?
Yeah, I'm holding up just fine. Yeah, you mentioned it. It's a little bit of a throwback here, and I don't want to get anybody down because I know how I feel every time the word COVID gets mentioned. It kind of like it's a visceral reaction that I don't like reliving. But yeah, somebody's got the Rona, and it isn't that guy in the studio. It's the guy broadcasting live quietly from his tank in the basement.
So I can't get blamed for this, dude. I haven't seen you in over a week there. How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was good. In fact, if I'm going to blame anybody, I'm going to blame the people I was interacting with on Twitter last night. That's where I think I got the coronavirus from. It's all your fault.
Well, Mike, while we're getting you set up here, let me tell everybody what is on tap today here in the Sports Bar. It's brought to you by Three Heads Brewing. Loopy Oatmeal Red Ale. Yes, it's back. Enjoy this beautiful hoppy red ale with a hint of toasted oats. Get yours at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today. By the way, our next show at Three Heads Brewing is going to be coming up on Friday, December 8th. I think we all need a little Buffalo Bills break. We get that this week, and by the time the 8th comes around, trust me, you'll be recharged, you'll be ready, as that'll be the Friday before the Bills play the Kansas City Chiefs. So hope you can join us for our Friday football talk live at Three Heads Brewing coming up on December 8th. 4 o'clock hour today, we're going to be talking to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout podcast about what happened yesterday out in Philadelphia and where do the Bills go from here. Sometimes to think about this, and we're going to double up on the Bills talk today as well. Alex Brasky, your editor of Bills Digest, also the Batavia Daily News. Alex will be joining us also here in the 3 o'clock hour. We have things to talk about today. Shots, NFL appetizers, some takes, and I'll drink to that. And time for your calls at 866-4326, 866-4326. 866-4FAN, if you spell that out, is Danger. You would say the table is now set, and I cannot believe the Bills found another way. No, they invent new ways to lose.
What do you mean you can't believe it? This is exactly what we've become accustomed to. And I don't really feel like I need to say much today, Gino, because I said it 2 weeks ago after they lost the way they lost at home to the Denver Broncos. What more do y'all need to see? This is a team that was completely outcoached and outclassed in the second half of that football game. You had the game. You have a head coach who's a coward, who coaches as if he doesn't realize Josh Allen is his quarterback. You had time of possession. You won the turnover battle. You gave that game, another game, 29 first downs. 29 first downs. You went 13 of 22 on third down. You gained over 500 yards of offense. If I said all of that to you, you would likely say, hey, the Bills won in Philadelphia. How great is that? Well, they didn't win in Philadelphia. You have a passive head coach who played conservative when you needed him to put his foot on the gas against the defending NFC champion. I'm disgusted. And I remain disgusted. And if I'm the guy that's going to continue to say fire McDermott, I mean, the amount that they were outcoached in the second half of that game, the inability to adjust to the adjustments that were made at halftime, is shocking to me. It's absolutely shocking, inexcusable.
You know what would have brought this more into focus, Danger? Let me explain it like this. There are many things within your control. One of the things not in your control is which way the coin is going to flip, okay? And we've seen that, in other times in this era of McDermott, that the Bills lose the coin toss and ergo lose the game. Well, what if they lost the coin toss last night? Or anybody really thinking that the Bills would have stopped Philadelphia on that first drive? I'm thinking not. That would have brought into clearer focus why that was such a passive, mealy move just to kneel down. And Romo was saying, I agree with this. You could get a strip sack. You have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the game. You are facing a Philadelphia secondary that has been shredded. You can get the ball into field goal range with time to get the walk-off shot. Maybe it doesn't work out, but you at least have to try. That's vent number 1. And then vent number 2. All right, credit Elliott for 59 yards, Danger. Yes, what a fantastic kick. You're taking the timeout to let him set up, okay? They were out of timeouts, and I believe the reason McDermott did that wasn't to ice him, so to speak. It was just to make sure he could count to 11 this time.
He chose icing the kicker over trying to score in 20 seconds with 2 timeouts. I mean, imagine a team who had ever gotten in field goal range with 20 seconds and a timeout before. Oh, that's right. It happened to the Bills. Do you have that short of a memory that you can't remember what you can accomplish with 20 seconds or less and a timeout in your holster? I'm just completely disgusted. And really don't know what else to say. You've got now a team, the stat that blew my mind, the 40th team since the 1970 merger.
Yes.
To have 500 yards, 10 third down conversions, a positive turnover margin in a game, and lose. Going into last night, teams were 39-0 in that scenario. The Bills become the first team to not win a game in that scenario. And you could even talk about the game-winning touchdown by Jalen Hurts. Here we go again. Defensive play calling and an aggressive play call at the wrong time, and you had the Eagles actually knowing and not believing what their eyes were seeing to them, that the Bills gave that look up to their offense. It's something that they knew as soon as they saw it, that Jalen Hurts was going to score on that final play of the game. So again, I don't want to keep being redundant and keep beating a dead horse. I think my stance on where this team is at is pretty well documented. The season isn't over, but it sure feels like it is. And you can't, even if you win the next 2 games, which is going to be a daunting task, you can't bank on another team to collapse in order to just be a contender. You no longer control your own destiny. You really need Miami to falter here down the stretch. Anything is possible. It could still come down to Week 18, certainly. But the way this team continues to lose games in this fashion, even if you were to make the postseason, do you have any confidence that it would end any differently than you've seen it end in games against the Eagles, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Giants? I mean, just rattle them off. It's just one disappointing loss after another in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, we have calls lined up. Before we get to the calls, Mike, this video is making the way around here. Nick Veronica, the latest to tweet this out. Like for anybody that says, wow, come on, 20 seconds to go, ball on your own 20. When does that ever happen? It happened last year, the Thanksgiving Day game, exact same scenario. 20 seconds left, ball on the 25, and what does Allen do? He fires it to Diggs, setting up the game-winning walk-off field goal. But yet we're playing for overtime. It doesn't like we're playing for the tie. I will say this here, okay, because the pitchforks are out. I consume, as you do, Danger, as much Buffalo sports talk as anybody, and we've heard all this.
But before we go to calls, you want the biggest piece of evidence that this is a poorly coached team? the biggest piece of evidence, it didn't even happen on the field. It happened off the field when you saw the Bills' defensive line get into it with Eagles fans and Shaq Lawson shoving an Eagles fan. Because why? Because Eagles fans were getting under your skin? Because Eagles fans were being Eagles fans? You didn't know that that's how Eagles fans roll? A good coach team has a little bit of discipline. They know how to tune that noise out, and they don't react the way Shaq Lawson reacted. So disappointed in that, disgusted by that, disgusted by this team's inability to close out the Eagles yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm going to stand by this take. I think people need to get comfortable with the idea that McDermott is back next year. I think it's an organization. Danger. They are slow to move on things. And if you look at the entire resume of Sean McDermott, and when you consider the fact that the general manager was actually hired kind of by the head coach, it would have to come from the owner. And where has Terry Pegula been in all this? I don't know. People ask me all the time. I'm like, you tell me where Terry Pegula is. Our number, 585-8664-FAN, 866-4326. Tim in San Diego starting us off on Monday. Hey, Tim.
That's a broken record, Gene, and Danger, sorry to hear you got the Rona, but I think you'll be okay. Again, why James Cook? Why? I mean, he dropped that pass, yes, but then you didn't see him for how many plays? What is it with McDermott and trying to discipline him, if you will? It doesn't make any sense, and it's killing his confidence. I saw that, I'm like, here we go again. And of course, bad clock management, bad game management. The Allen interception, 3rd and 16, and you're basically throwing up a heave. And Poyer and Hyde couldn't get to it. Yeah, like I texted a friend yesterday, I said, those guys are kind of like aging boxers, during a fight. You just tell that they're getting old, and unfortunately I think that's happening, with those two. And, just as far as blitzing on the final drive of regulation and also, even in overtime, McDermott is coaching desperate now, and it's not doing well. It's not going well, and it should cost him his job, Gene, but if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, I think. But if he doesn't, I think there needs to be a change. But you're right, Pegula's in a history, they tend to get a little too comfortable with their coaching. I'm talking about the Sabres and the Bills. So I mean, there's that history there too. But if Terry Pegula is really watching and really seeing and really hearing the fans, I think a change is needed. If again. The Bills don't make the playoffs this year, I think that a change is definitely needed.
Tim, thanks for starting us off. Very, very sound points. And I'm going to follow that up with anybody that, is in the Bills need a change at head coach. And this is the question that I will ask everybody that I know none of us have the answer to, but we can kind of debate. What does that do for business? Bringing McDermott back, is that bad for business? Is it good for business? Is it a nothing? And I can't say I have all the info here, but what I can tell you is that the Buffalo Bills right now, behind the scenes, are having their biggest sales pitch ever. They are. They need you to buy the premium seats. They need you to pony up dollars that, quite honestly, you may not know you have. And if sales are pacing way behind, that might be the thing that gets Terry Pegula to say, you know what, we need to do something to excite this fan base. If everything is fine in that regard, and again, I don't know, Danger, but if everything is fine in that regard, then it would kind of lead me to think, well, this was just one of those years. Shrug your shoulders. We'll get him next year with Sean.
You know what? I think the NFL has gotten to become such a massive global organization that the NFL owners aren't thinking the way we fans are thinking. Like, oh, there's no way you're going to ask for these premium seat licenses, these PSLs, when you've got a team that's, in a fan base that's disgruntled. I don't think they care. I think they're oblivious. And by the way, I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. Like, everybody will view it as an investment. People will chime in, not just from our area. Like, we used to think, oh, the Bills are regional. The Bills will have to. No, they aren't. They're a global franchise, just like every other team in the NFL is. And if you want people to buy those PSLs, you will find people to buy those PSLs. I can't tell you that your game day experience is going to be like what it has been. It might end up being more like what we see in Vegas, more like what we see in LA when you have visiting teams come in and just take over a stadium. Because honestly, how many Bills fans are going to invest in a team that looks the way this team looks right now.
Yeah, our number 866-4326-8664 fan Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News. We'll get in the Bills Digest. We will get his thoughts as well. Waiting patiently, Linda from Webster. Hey, Linda.
Hey, gentlemen. So I've been willing to cut Sean McDermott a lot of slack, especially after last year and everything that we all went through. But we went toe-to-toe with the team that has the best record in the NFL, despite Josh Allen's interception and despite missed field goal and despite the horrible officiating. We went toe-to-toe, and Sean McDermott lost us that game. It wasn't like one brain fart. It was multiple brain farts. And I think there's also another one. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. In overtime, Philadelphia was penalized, and instead of, Sean McDermott took the penalty, giving Philadelphia 3rd and 17 instead of 4th and 12. What are you doing? 4th and 12. Okay, so like they don't make the first down, or 4th and 12. Do you not think that we could stop them on 4th and 12? I mean, the defense could do as much as it possibly could. And it's, if we keep Sean McDermott, well, get ready, fans. We're just going to see more of the same. We're going to be farting around for the next however many years. That's the state of Buffalo playoff football. We're going to be farting around.
All right, thank you, Linda. And we're here for your frustrations here today. I'm looking up that penalty that Linda was. There so much that happened in that game. I don't recall that sequence. I'm going to say something because Linda said the O word. Okay, and we can be your outlet here. You are free to vent about the officiating. Danger, here's my position on it. It's terrible in the NFL, not just Buffalo Bills related. We, as consumers of this product, should ask and demand for better officiating. And maybe we'll get it. AI is a real thing. Like, how is it that we cannot get the officials on the field? And maybe it's more eye in the sky. Maybe there's more Big Brother, okay? And that was one of the worst calls in recent memory to go against the Buffalo Bills, the horse collar, and then you attack on some intentional grounding. But the majority of Bills fans I engaged with on social media last night, after they calmed down, kind of realized, okay, on the list of reasons why the Buffalo Bills lost this game, the officiating sucked, but that wasn't the main reason. You can't commit, 9 first-half penalties?
There isn't a single head coach in the NFL, and not just because they would get fined if they did this, but they're not going to blame officiating for the outcome of a game.
Well, they can't. Yeah.
McDermott actually said that you've got to take the officials out of it with your level of play. And I believe that to be the truth, that officials are horrible in every sport, in every league. You can find in any game a reason to be upset at officiating. Every game, every sport, all the time. So knowing what we know, just eliminate that and don't ever let it come down to a blown call here or a missed call there. And a lot of people will say, well, that was so slanted. I mean, they had 10 penalties first half and Philadelphia had 1. Yeah, you had a lot of sloppy play, a lot of undisciplined play. You saw it. I saw it. Sean McDermott saw it on the holding calls against Deion Dawkins. I mean, these are things that you have to have cleaned up by week 12 of the NFL season. Administrative penalties need to not happen at this point of the season. The blown calls and the officiate, like in every game, you're going to see that. So I choose not to engage in that conversation. I know a lot of people do, and that's fine. Well, you can blame the officials all you want. I just won't hear that conversation. I feel like it gives off big-time loser energy. I'm not into it.
Yeah, to clarify, Linda, it wasn't in overtime. It was the last Philadelphia drive. It was a 3rd and 12, and that was the second of 2 Jason Kelce false starts. Well, once the play is dead, Linda, once that happened, so it's not like the Bills could have declined that and brought up 4th down. The following play was the Jordan Poyer breakup. So that was
and it goes both ways, Gino. I mean, you had a very, very ticky-tack roughing the passer call against the Eagles late in the game that you could probably argue Josh was doing a little bit of flopping on, a little bit of acting on. So it goes both ways. I know it doesn't feel like it when your team is on the short end of the stick and you end up with the loss. Let's just all agree that officiating needs to improve. It needs to get better. You're more than welcome to complain about it. I'm not going to do it because I don't view it as a productive exercise.
This is like, but as consumers of the product, and I go back, there have been worse screw jobs. And the one danger, and I don't know if you were in town by this point, it was Doug Flutie losing against Drew Bledsoe, the Vincent Brisby game, Ben Coates. It was 1998. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the official, like that was bad, and that actually spurned change. It was so bad that was the game that said, all right, you know what, we need replay. So, judging by yesterday, is anything going to change out of yesterday? The answer is no. The answer is no. Like every game now has a penalty or two that you go, what? What was that? It just so happened that it went against the Bills yesterday. We got Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, joining us. Danger joining us from his cave as we're doing, it's a throwback here to 2020, 2021. Unfortunately, here in the sports bar. We've got opinions coming up. Oh, yeah, the Sabres play tonight. We got other things happening, and we have time for more your calls. And, look, Blame Assessment Monday is always a day where it's interesting on the phones. And we invite your calls today at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Gene Battaglia, Mike Danger, Bo Jackson in studio today helping us out as well. Pizza Guy is around here somewhere. A full cast here on a Monday here on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills head to the month of December as a 500 team, losing in Philadelphia in overtime. Josh Allen does the honorable thing, crediting the Eagles.
Well, I mean, make no mistake, it's a really good football team. They're defending NFC champs for a reason. They made plays tonight and made enough to win the game.
Sean McDermott to address reporters coming up at the top of the hour, and then the team breaks for the week with the next action coming up on December the 10th in Kansas City. News in the NFL today where the Carolina Panthers firing head coach Frank Reich. Special teams coach Chris Tabor takes over on an interim basis. Got Sabres hockey tonight. Buffalo playing at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. Our coverage begins at 7 here on the Fan Rochester. Looks like it'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in net for Buffalo. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Or on the rocks, it's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
And more of your calls coming up in a little bit as Danger will be rejoining us as well. Gene Battaglia with you, and joining us on the phone, our good friend. He is the editor of Bills Digest. Also, you can read his work in the Batavia Daily News. And if there's a local high school game in the Glow region, he might be calling it. Alex Brasky, good enough to give us a few minutes here. Alex, how do the Buffalo Bills keep finding new and inventive ways to lose football games? How are you today, Alex?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, Gene. How are you today?
Calm down a little bit. I think everybody was a little lamped up last night, as they should. Do you fault Sean McDermott for not taking a chance there at the end of regulation?
Absolutely. You ask where the blame lies with this loss. I think it lies directly at Sean McDermott's feet. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I don't often like to blame the coaching, but when there's so many decisions made late in the fourth quarter and in overtime that go the wrong way, that lies at the head coach's doorstep. McDermott always seems to make the wrong decisions in these circumstances. He's, I believe, 1-6 in his career in overtime, 0-6 with Josh Allen playing off coverage throughout late in the fourth quarter and overtime, then the cover zero blitz to gift wrap the QB draw touchdown for Jalen Hurts, seemingly pushing the buttons at the wrong time in that circumstance, and the timeouts before the game-tying field goal, and his decision to kneel going into overtime when, as you alluded to, against Detroit last year, one play got the Bills into field goal range in that situation, so seemed like a poor decision there. And then the decision to kick the field goal in overtime can also be called into question, as you really found it difficult to stop the Eagles throughout the second half. And I don't know what made Sean McDermott feel that kicking the field goal with 6 yards to go into the line again was a better option rather than stick with it, get the touchdown, which would have ended the game. So I think when there's so many decisions that are left at the head coach, that are left for the head coach to make, and they all come out the wrong way, I think there's only one place to place the blame in this circumstance.
We're joined by Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, also Bills Digest. And Alex, it was a short week last week, but one of the conversations we were having on our show was about Gabe Davis. And Gabe Davis wasn't involved at all in the Jets game and didn't talk to reporters like as a team captain, and thinking, all right, maybe this is Gabe. Well, for the majority of the game yesterday, I'm like, all right, maybe this is the Gabe Davis redemption game. And then you get to that play in overtime, and Josh Allen after the game, didn't, kind of shoulder the blame a little bit. Here was my read on it, Alex, is that if you can recognize it's a blitz and there isn't a safety in that position, it's what they call cover zero, and it's just one-on-one, Josh Allen, more often than not, is going to throw the ball to the spot where the safety would have been. So do you buy Josh Allen's explanation that it was just a simple 50-50 miscommunication, or are you more on my side that, like, look, that's Davis. He's got to know he's the hot read in there, and he's got to turn his head around?
Well, I don't think you're the only one that feels that way, so I would tend to agree with you. Josh Allen is always going to back his receiver. He's a leader of the team, the quarterback for the Bills, so he's always going to stand up and take some of the blame. But you heard Tony Romo on the broadcast say the play there for the quarterback is to throw the ball to the middle of the field once you realize the receiver has beat his man with no safety help over the top. Exactly how you described. It's an easier throw over the middle rather than throw it to the corner of the end zone or toward that direction. So I think this was a clear error on Gabe Davis's part, but perhaps he's pressing a bit. He had a big game, 12 targets, 6 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown, but before this week he hadn't really done much. So who knows in a big spot if he's thinking too much and just didn't let the play come to him, but certainly it seemed like he made the wrong choice in that circumstance, and the blame can be placed at his feet on that play rather than Josh Allen in this case.
Yeah, one of the things that was automatic on this team that all of a sudden doesn't seem automatic, and maybe this is just the course with kickers, like all of them are, like, and then at some point we're going to hit a bump. What's our concern level right now with Tyler Bass, Alex?
Yeah, I'd say it's creeping up. That's for sure. He started the season red hot. I believe he made his first 10 field goal attempts of the season, but now he's had 2 games with 2 misses apiece, and this last game was really concerning on that 34-yard field goal. Just failed to get the ball into the air, kicking it really in perfect placement for the Eagles defenders to get their hands on it, and that's exactly what happened. With the Bills' offense getting things together as they have over the past few weeks, the last thing they need is for their kicker to fall apart with the margin for error being so thin as it is now at 6-6 with 5 games to go. I'd say the concern level is creeping up with Tyler Bass, not quite ready to cast him out and want a new kicker in for the Bills. I believe he's built up enough stock during his time in Buffalo, but he certainly had a concerning stretch. I think it was 2 misses against the Patriots and now 2 misses in this game. Certainly cost them in both matchups that were won by 1 score.
You can read his column, 7 Takeaways, the Bills' Missed Opportunities, as the Buffalo Bills falling in Philadelphia. Alex Brasky is our guest. The run defense, Alex, it just seems like quite often we see guys get in the wrong position over pursuing, whether that's Dotson, whether that's a defensive tackle. Is this something that can be fixed, or is this just actually going to be a real problem going down the stretch for this Bills team?
Seems like it's going to be a problem. It has been an inconsistency of the defense all season, even when they had Daquan Jones at their disposal. A quick note, I was listening to Matt Perino and Ryan Talbot's Shout podcast as I was not able to make the trip to Philadelphia this weekend, and they said that they did see Daquan Jones in the post-game locker room, so perhaps he's trying to make a comeback here down the stretch, but who knows if there'll be meaningful football left to be played once he's able to suit up. But I think they've missed Jones. I think they've missed Milano, obviously, at the second level. Dodson has done an admirable job. He's been ranked, I believe, as the top linebacker on Pro Football Focus. I don't think that's even close to being the truth, but I think he's done an admirable job, but you're missing some speed there. And while Terrell Bernard is doing his best in his first season as a starter, I'm sure there's been some growing pains in that regard as well. So it looks like this is going to be something that they're going to have to deal with the rest of the season, and with the injuries all over the defense, it's really going to be tough. And you saw it in the second half, this defense wearing down. They put forth that quality first-half performance, and then just down the stretch couldn't get a stop. You let 4 ball carriers average over 4 yards per carry. Jalen Hurts, the lowest of them, with 4.6 yards per carry. The rest of them over 5.5. So they were just ripping off chunk yard after chunk yard play. So Bills are going to have to find a way to plug the holes, but I'm just not sure they're going to be able to do so.
Yeah, it's such a strange game, Alex, where you make one play and just let's just say that's Davis turning the other direction, and we are toasting Josh Allen. We're toasting Joe Brady here in this Bills offense, that this was the expectation for most of the season, and now that it's shown up, that's another frustrating thing about this loss. Was there was the offense, and nobody is helping the offense, not the other 2 phases. So much we're talking about. Where's the talk about complimentary football yesterday, Alex? The question is, though, like, what has been the impact here of Joe Brady? What has he done differently to, you can call the offense has been a success here these last 2 games?
I think there's a lot of schematical changes that he's made and maybe minor tweaks to what they've done offensively, but by and large, he's calling the same plays as Ken Dorsey was. I think the biggest or most significant change that he's made for Josh Allen is simply a fresh look, a fresh voice in that headset and delivering the plays, perhaps talking to him between plays. Whatever Joe Brady has brought to the table is certainly working. Over 500 yards of offense yesterday, 420 Josh Allen can account for. 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing, just really getting it done in every phase of the game. And what we saw from him yesterday, which was most impressive in my regard, was not only his ability to run, which I hinted at in my 7 takeaways, which really aided the Bills' offense, but he really spread the ball around very well. Gabe Davis with over 100 yards. Stephon Diggs, I think, had over 70 yards. 74 yards. James Cook over 50. Khalil Shakir over 40. Kincaid impacted the game early with 5 receptions. So he was really spreading the ball around well, and that's something that we haven't seen him do at times this season. And I think if they can continue to do that and continue to get Gabe Davis involved, it's going to work wonders for this offense moving forward.
As you point out in your article, and again, there's different. You have the New York Times, you have ESPN. You have ESPN saying the Bills have a 21% chance now to make the playoffs, which I never would have thought here. But that's the crazy thing about if you had a healthy Josh Allen, you'd be in this position. So how would you assess here? Where do the Bills kind of go from here, Alex?
It's a good question. I think there's been a lot of positives to take away offensively the past 2 weeks, but the second half and overtime defensively is incredibly worrisome when you look at this group, that the injuries continue to mount. And let's be honest, they're not getting any younger, particularly deep in the secondary with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who at times this season in crunch time have been exposed. And that's why you've seen some of these offenses be able to drive the length of the field with short time. It's because the Bills' defense on the back end just hasn't been up to snuff. And that's not to discredit 2 players who have really contributed quite the career and quite the contributions just to this Buffalo defense during their time with the Bills. But this season, there's been some worries to be brought up with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and I think that is a major concern moving forward. And obviously, the injury, as I said before, to Milano has really hurt them. So I'm not sure that there's much they can do besides just keep trying to grind this out and keep trying to find answers, which they have found at times, but at other times it's looked like they've been clueless.
Yeah, it's been a rough go here, and leads us to the question, Alex, because you're not immune from this. You're on social media. You listen to talk radio. The seat here, would you describe it as warm? Is it hot? Where are we at right now with Sean McDermott for a team that's 500 right now?
With the fans, I think it's red hot. With ownership, I think it's ice cold. I don't think McDermott is going anywhere, no matter how this season concludes, unless he somehow does something rash over these next few weeks that is totally unexpected, but I don't foresee that happening. So McDermott has built up enough stock, I used that phrase before, with this organization to stick around another year, I think, no matter what takes place this season. And although there have been plenty of close games over the years, and particularly this year with the New England game, the Jets game week 1, the Denver game, and now the Philadelphia game, all coming down to the final possession and seemingly head coaching decisions really turning the game in the favor of the opponent, it's drawn some concern in terms of McDermott's ability to lead this team moving forward. But in terms of coming back next season, I don't see any way that we would see Sean McDermott receive his pink slip by the time this season's through.
So, again, I'm probably looking at this through the lens of a fan here and not reality, but should there be like some vote of confidence, whether that's from Brandon Beane or Terry Pagula, or is that just asking too much here, Alex?
Well, Brandon Beane did meet with the media after free agency, and he was asked about Sean McDermott's ability taking the reins as the defensive coordinator and how he's managed both of those responsibilities, and his response was glowing. He was glowing in his praise of McDermott and how he's handled that, said he thought he's done a great job, and he even mentioned how there may have been some slip-ups with some of the other parts of in-game management. He said how he thinks McDermott has handled those. I don't want to use an incorrect word. I'm not sure what he said, but to paraphrase, he said he's handled those situations flawlessly. So I don't think Bean is thinking any differently. And in terms of Terry Pagula speaking to the media, that does not happen very often. So I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. I did write in Bill's Digest as part of my parting shots with the way that this season is going. Not that you need to come out and give a state of the team, but to hear from the owner during times of struggle is always, or typically, an encouraging moment for the fans, and his silence certainly building here as the struggles and the disgusting defeats continue to pile up here.
Yeah, there is like one angle to this, and we'll be joined by Danger in a little bit, and he's not as much as I am thinking that this is an angle, but where are we at here in terms of ticket sales and people asking for the premium dollars? Because in the drought era, whenever you had a stadium renovation or you ever had these things, there was always this, okay, here's this new hope. It's a new head coach. Oh, we signed Terrell Owens. Things that would appease the fan base to get them to open the wallet. Danger says we're way beyond that point here in West New York. I'm like, well, I don't know. This is the biggest ask that this franchise will ever make, opening up a new stadium, and there's going to be sticker shock, and I'm just wondering if people will be less inclined if it's McDermott and this roster that seems like they can't get it done here. Could we expect the business angle here at all to affect a decision whether or not Sean McDermott comes back next year or not?
Yeah, I think at this point I would agree with Danger that the Bills are beyond that point. They've now established themselves as kind of a must-see TV team in the NFL. Even when they lose, it seems to come in miraculous fashion. But I think the thing that works against McDermott here is there's still time before they open that new stadium. So in terms of right now, I don't think the Bills would be thinking in that way, but still with a couple of years left, if things continue to go the way that they are and fan support continues to diminish for the head coach, I think certainly that may be a discussion that needs to be had.
What's your position on the officiating? We were saying basically, look, it's terrible in this league. You got to fix it. But if I'm coming up with reasons why the Buffalo Bills lost that game yesterday, Alex, it's not in my top 5.
Yeah, I would say it came down to the Bills. The Bills lost that game. They cost it themselves. You look at the officiating, and sure, there were some bad calls, particularly you look at the intentional grounding, horse collar tragedy with Josh Allen involved. Not only was he clearly being pulled by the front and back of the collar, he had Gabe Davis in the area, I believe 5 or 10 feet near the play. So I would contend that there was a receiver in the area, even if they were inclined to call the intentional grounding. And then you had the fumble that wasn't a fumble from A.J. Brown in overtime, a similar play ruled a fumble in the Chargers-Ravens game maybe an hour later. So the inconsistencies every week are just shocking. And then Darius Slay, 2 plays with him. He tackles Trent Sherfield, and then later in the game he's tugging at Diggs' jersey. So, I mean, the officials are staring at all those plays, and it's a shock that none of them were called seemingly correctly. But at the same time, with the amount of mistakes the Bills made, particularly in crunch time, and I alluded to many of them already that can be blamed on McDermott's decision-making, the Bills lost the game themselves. I don't think this is a game where you can look at 1 or 2 calls and say, oh, this is why you lost the game. Bills had chances to win. Bills had chances to add to the lead. 2 missed field goals from Tyler Bass, a drop from James Cook. We mentioned the miscommunication, if it was, between Allen and Gabe Davis. So plenty of chances to win this game despite the poor officiating. And that happens every week in the NFL, pretty much in every single game where the refs cost one team or the other. And a lot of times teams find a way to overcome it.
Alex, I go into Wegmans, just getting some last-second things for Thanksgiving. And there was the midseason report on the newsstand, Bill's Digest. I assume it's still out there for people to kind of go check out. And what else do you got working on at the Batavia Daily News that we can keep updated on?
It's a great promo there, Gene. Yeah, you can find those on newsstands anywhere that you'd like. But Yeah, you can tune into our next edition of Bills Digest. Will come if the Bills make the playoffs. We'll preview the playoff game, I believe, digitally, but our next physical copy will come after the season. It's kind of a season review and looking forward to the off season. But as always, you can stay locked into the dailynewsonline.com. I give my pregame 5 takes, my postgame 7 takeaways, and also a quick recap of the game as the game is going on. So try to keep you involved that way. Follow me at Alex Brasky, and looking forward to the Section 5 winter sports season as well.
Yeah. And so, Alex, so people who don't know, like Bills play on Christmas Eve or somewhere about on or is the day after Christmas at the New England game. You're in New England on Christmas night. You go out to Chicago, you're snowed in or you can't get back. You're out there on Christmas. Are you going to Los Angeles this Christmas?
No, that will not happen. When I go to these games, always is the case. They have to be within driving distance. I'm a driver. I'm like, you can call me the next John Madden if you like. I know he rode the bus for years. I tend to drive personally, but I think as far as I would go would probably be, I went to Chicago, maybe Kansas City I would test, but certainly not driving to Los Angeles, no.
No flight? Maybe we can get your flight. Figure something out.
Yeah, hey, I'm the fan Rochester. Maybe Danger, but
yeah, we'll put it on Danger's credit card. There we go.
Right.
Alex, thanks for your time. Always appreciate it. And, we get a little break from Buffalo Bills football. Alex, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, I think we all need the break. Thanks, Gene.
Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest. And, yeah, the run defense is also kind of a problem. Like, we can talk about McDermott and everything else, but there was out there for a little bit yesterday, too. The injury to Matt Milano. That has been as problematic as anything. The fall off of Micah Hyde, we've got to have a Micah Hyde conversation. Like a good safety would easily break that up and get that back yesterday. Jordan Poyer's made some plays. Safety is going to be a glaring need for this team, so much so that everybody that is pounding their fist for a wide receiver on this team, perhaps to replace Gabe Davis, may have to wait until the later rounds, because if Sean McDermott is the head coach of this team next year and you have these massive holes in the secondary and maybe at linebacker, you assume Milano will be ready week 1. Yeah, it's going to be problematic. Danger will rejoin us next as we will have some thoughts, and I'll drink to that. Get some college football talk here as well. And words I thought I would never say on the show, Mike Francesa was right. We have time for your calls, too. 866-4, very good. 866-4326. 866-4-FAN. Pizza Dude, Bo Jackson, everybody behind the scenes as we're linking up with Danger remotely today here on The Fan Rochester.
This is the Fan, Rochester.
On this Blame Assessment Monday. Welcome back. Gene Battaglia. This sounds a little different today because I am here in the studio. We welcome in once again Mike Danger. Mike, are you there? No, listen, better that you stay over there. In fact, stay over there for a little bit because the last time. So, Bo Jackson, turn on your mic. Here's the quick story here, just the backstory, where on a Friday, and this is like, we're just coming out of the pandemic, and I'm like, I feel a little bit off, and I took the test. And I'm like, Danger, I took the test. Everything is fine. Well, next thing you know, it's Monday morning, and I get this angry text from Danger, just with the picture with the two stripes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that. And then sure enough, he's like, you better take another one. I'm like, okay. And I'd already so like for a full week, we did this. Danger in North Grilton. It's not a real town. That's what we call it. Okay. East Hilton. I prefer North Greece, North Grilton, but mine and Spencerport, we made it work. And today, Danger, sends me the same picture, but this time since I haven't seen you weekend, but I get there's no blame assessment on me on this one. There it is. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. Well, at least you did the responsible thing and didn't gut it out and come in and get the rest of us sick here. And on that, and I went to Wilbert's on Saturday. Cut down the tree. Doesn't Rick Wilbur? I'm huffing and puffing. He's like, Gene, you're out of shape. You shouldn't be out of breath cutting down a tree and hauling it in. I'm like, I don't have any excuse. At least you have an excuse for calling. I have no excuse for being out of shape. So I can see what. Yeah, you and I are opposites because you have the elegant tree with the nice lighting and everything. Mine looks straight like out of the 1970s with the colored bulbs and the gaudiness and like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to drink box wine and look at my tree as I did last night. And like, okay, that'll calm the nerves here after another Bills performance. Danger, let's get to some takes real quick here. And then on the other side, we can take some of your calls. People go allow the vent with us at 8664-FAN. And if we might change it up here for a second here. College football was a lot of fun over the weekend, was it not? And yeah, and there's only one fan base that is gonna disagree with this. That's the Ohio State fan base. Lose to Michigan, one loss, you're out. What a great sport this is. It was a playoff game. Well, unless you're a Buckeye fan, you're not laughing at this. And now it's going to be crummy Iowa, who can't put up 20 points in any particular game. Crummy Iowa is going to get blasted by Michigan in the Big Ten Championship. You know what, though, Danger? Next year, and I've been saying this for months and months and months, you're not going to have all this riding on the Michigan-Ohio State game next year because they're both in. Close enough. Like, maybe even Iowa get... Look, bigger is not better because this weekend that we just enjoyed, it's not going to be the same next year, Danger. No. Oh. Oh. Oh, we'll all watch it, and we'll all watch Michigan, Ohio State. But if you're a Michigan fan, aren't you just loving that not only did you win the rivalry game, you eliminated Ohio State. When's Ohio State going to play in the Outback Bowl? What do they get now? Yeah, you can back channel talk to somebody like Jim Harbaugh now. That's the benefit. There isn't any tampering, so to speak, with a college head coach. The question